Good morning. Good morning, boys and girls. All right. First of all, it's 11 a.m. and Mayor Sarno knows when Ruth Lovings, God rest her soul, she would always start right on time. And we've done this flag raising, 2 feet of snow, 2 feet of rain, 20 below zero. The flag must go up on February 1st. So I want to acknowledge, we'll look to the left, we see Ruth Lovings, who in memory we do this every year. This is our 32nd year of doing this black flag raising. So I want to thank everybody for coming. We have a dynamic program. We feel, we understand that black citizens have made great contributions to the country, not only to this country, but to this whole wide universe. At this time, I want to turn it over to my wife, Dr. Williams, who will be the mistress of ceremonies. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Why, thank you. You see, they know me. And you know, State Representative Budd is a former teacher, so that's why he was using his teacher voice when he said, good morning, boys and girls, to you. You didn't know that, did you? Okay. So as State Representative Bud L. Williams has indicated, we were out one evening and Mrs. Loving just simply said to us, okay, I'm turning this charge over to you to continue with this program of raising the National Black Heritage flag. So being obedient, we have done this since her passing. So it is really, I consider it an honor and a privilege to be here this morning and stand before you as we begin to celebrate the many contributions of our African Americans. You know, it's the shortest month in the year. However, we have made some of the greatest contributions to society. So it is with great honor that I begin the program. I usually, where's the mayor? I usually explain to the mayor why I'm not greeting him first, because when my husband was a city councilman, I would start with him to honor him. You have to honor your own first. So this year, Bud said to me, okay, it's going to be okay because you start with the state official first. So, Mayor, I would just like to recognize State Representative Bud L. Williams, my husband, first, and greet him. All right, give honor where honor is due. And then next to the mayor of our great city, Mayor Dominic Sarno, good morning. We bring you greetings. And before we get into the program, I will acknowledge the other officials that are here. But with that, we're going to start the program with the processional of the Peter Brace Brigade. I'm sorry. So I think they're ready. Now you know that everything and every occasion, in my belief, God is in that. So before we continue with our program, I'm going to ask one of the newest pastors in Springfield, the Reverend Marcus T. McCullough, if he will come forward and bring us the invocation. I'm sorry, he's from Bethel AME Church. Let's give him a round of applause.
Good morning. Good morning. Let us assume a posture of prayer. Gracious and great God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this occasion to celebrate. And God, we know that our great heritage, our great history, our triumphs, our culture, our pride is a gift from you. And so on this day, God, and certainly in these trying times, we ask for your blessing and your strength and your courage to help us live out our truths, to be proud of who we are, to continue to lead and to continue to serve based upon the great legacy that has been granted to us. We thank you for this occasion. We do it in your honor and in the honor of those who have come before us. Bless us with your presence and your strength, and we give you thanks. In your most holy name we pray. Let the people say amen.
Amen. Thank you. At this time, we have the 3rd Masonic District here present with us, and we're going to ask Representative Cephas Jackson if he will come forward and share a few words.
Thank you, Doc. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to see all the kids look at the youth. That's good. Congratulations to Freeman and the Job Corps. I bring greetings from the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge in Massachusetts under the 71st Most Worshipful Grand Master, Eve Magnum. We are the oldest black organization. We started in 1775. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be a part of this festivity of Black history. I have with me some of my officers. I have the illustrious potentate, Doug. And my other officers, Masonic brothers, have attended. I'll now call your name, but you can stand. Yeah. In Mason, we have several houses. We have the Blue House, which is I'm the District Deputy Grand Master, and we have the Shrine, we have the Red House. But I want to also thank Representative Williams and his lovely wife, Dr. Williams, and also give tribute to our mayor, the People's Mayor, for allowing us to be in this house again. I know some years ago, and I'm going to go back to history because history is about how we advanced, that we was on the steps trying to get up here. God has been good to us, and we continue to praise him. So, Mr. Mayor, we want to thank you. And all the politicians, all our elected officials, see what you have to live for, the youth. They're watching us, and we got to set an example. So it gives me good pleasure to be before us to announce that the Masonic brothers and sisters are pleased to be a part of this program. Thank you, Buddy Williams. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. And you're right, there are so many people here today that could have been elsewhere, but they chose it not robbery to be with us, the elected officials. And if I overlook anyone, just raise your hand. I see State Representative Carlos Gonzalez there. And standing next to him is his legislative aide. Sorry, we'll come back to you. That's a legislative aide to another politician, Ms. Jose Tizado. You're welcome. I see our newest city councilman, Jesse Letterman, standing there. I see Mr. Milo Brown, who's legislative aide to State Representative Bud L. Williams. Don't want to leave anyone out. And then I see there is Miss Vanessa Ford, who is the assistant, oh, there she is, right here, to State Senator James Welch. Mrs. Catering Walsh, the Vice President of the City Council. Let's give her a big round of applause. Women in history, I love it. Seated next to her is Mrs. Janice Santos, who's the Executive Director of the Springfield Chicopee Holyoke Head Start. I did see, Mayor, we were speaking and greeting you, but I did see your Chief of Staff, Miss Denise Jordan. She's here somewhere. There she is in the back, someplace in the back. Did I overlook any one of the, oh, I'm sorry, how could I? My neighbor, the Commissioner of Health and Human Services, Mrs. Helen Carlton Harris. And then I do see Mrs. Ida Flynn, who's also been on the battlefield. I can remember, but she and Mrs. Loving were always out there fighting. Mrs. Flynn was at one time president of the NAACP. And then someone who's been very helpful, works with children, my former associate pastor, Reverend Zachary Slater. Would you just raise your hand? Okay, I think I have everyone here that, if not, just raise your hand so we can recognize you. And then we'll continue on. With that, we'll actually ask our mayor if he will come forward. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoop. With all these children here, you know, we do make mistakes, but if you can't make a mistake, you can't make anything. Okay, so with that, I'm going to ask our school, I'm going to just recognize our school committee woman, Barbara Gresham, for now. She'll come forward after the mayor. Just raise your hand. All right, with that, I'm going to ask our very own Mayor, Dominic Sarno, to come forward. And I know he may allude to what Mr. Jackson was sharing, but it was not too long ago that we weren't even allowed to be here in City Hall chambers.
Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause to our Mistress of Ceremonies, Dr. Williams. And we're also joined by a civil rights icon, retired State Representative Ben Swan. Put your hands together for Ben Swan. I want to thank my friend, State Representative Buddy Williams, for continuing to carry on this tradition. As I was standing next to my state rep and friend, socioeconomics, Carlos Gonzalez, when Dr. Williams was doing the introductions about husbands first, Carlos said to me, "You never get in the middle of a husband or a wife," so never. And you're absolutely right. I want to, Reverend Clergy, Reverend Culliff, thank you and welcome again, Bethel. Reverend Slater, thank you for being here. How's my Head Start kids doing, okay? They gave me some good fist bumps there. I appreciate that. Friedman, choir in the house, how we doing? You ready to sing your hearts out? We have a great singer here with Vanessa Ford, so she can teach you some tricks of the trade, too. They're very important. To the Peter Brace Brigade, Commander Brace, and each and every one of you, thank you for always being at events, not only African-American events, but cultural and arts events and Springfield events. Let's give them a big round of applause. To my police commissioner, C.C. Ryder there, C. Jackson, to the Masons, thanks for always being there, and you guys always look so, so dapper. So, so dapper. And my coffee was okay? Okay, it was all right. To Dr. Shabazz, thank you very, very much again for being here. We look forward to hearing your words of wisdom. Every time this event is held, I think of two people, especially one, God rest her soul, Dr. Ruth Loving. She was adamant about making sure that this event not only started but continued. And I also think of our current city councilor, E. Henry Twiggs, who was always an important component, continues to be an important component. But Dr. Loving, and she is looking down now, and she'd probably be saying to Buddy and I, move this thing forward, get it going. Am I right, Ida? You should be saying that? So, for kids, it's really important that you're here. It's a time in our country where we continue to try to work together to unify. We're stronger together as one. And as a prior speaker said, we do this all for you, so you'll have an opportunity to lead and continue to give back to our community. So we have an official proclamation. Whereas two gentlemen by the names of Gleason T. Jackson and Melvin Charles, both residents of Linden, New Jersey, have dedicated so much of their lives toward the recognition and creation of the Negro American flag, which was completely designed, band patented in 1967, and renamed years later to keep the peace with the times to the Black American Heritage Flag. And whereas the purpose of this symbol is to convey and represent the pride and to remind everyone that the history of black people is an honorable one, full of pain, remembered from the degrading days of slavery, the undeniable contributions to the history of the United States of America. And whereas the design, color, and symbols that were chosen by Mr. Jackson and Mr. Charles for the Black American Heritage Flag carry with them an important piece of Black American history, which shall forever remind each Black American of his or her past and unlimited, kids, unlimited potential for the future. Don't let anybody tell you a zip code's going to dictate your future. You continue to dictate your future. Therefore, I, Dominic J. Sarno, Mayor of the City of Springfield, do hereby proclaim February 1st, 2018 as Black American Heritage Flag Day in the City of Springfield, and I urge all our citizens in joining with me to celebrate the raising of the Black American Heritage Flag. I wish you all continued success. I thank each and every one of you for your continued belief and investment in the City of Springfield, but more importantly, the human spirit, and I wish you Godspeed. Thank you so, so much. Buddy, that's for you. Thank you. Yeah, I had to use that line when Carl said that.
And School Committee Woman Gresham, you were absolutely correct, but we switched it up a little bit. So we're going to ask our School Committee Woman, Ms. Barbara Gresham, if she will come forward and bring you an official welcome on behalf of the school committee, herself, and the community. Mrs. Gresham.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Good morning. Good morning. I would like to extend a warm welcome to each of you who are here today to celebrate our 32nd annual raising of the Black American Heritage Flag, to respect and remind us of the struggles, bloodshed, pride, and identity that our forefathers encountered. Therefore, we appreciate your presence. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the service. Once again, you're welcome.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gresham. And I'm not going to try to talk Black history because I actually see the local father of civil rights and Black history, and I didn't see him at first, but again, someone recognized that our former state representative Ben Swan is sitting there. So let's give him another round of applause. You're welcome. At this time, I'm just going to ask our state representative from the 11th Hampton District to come forward in his own way.
Thank you. Thank you again. What a pleasure it is to stand here, and as the mayor said, we continue this tradition. Started the late Dr. Ruth B. Loving, 32 years. We've done it every single year, and the Lord says so, we'll never miss another year. Adam Gomez, Springfield City Councilman, thank you. Thank you, my brother, for coming. I was doing a radio interview yesterday in Boston, and they said, Rep. Williams, you'll appreciate this, Ben. Will you add to what you thought of Donald Trump's speech and all stuff he's stirring up. And I simply said, Donald Trump has tapped a nerve that below the surface, race has always mattered. Race still matters. W.D. Du Bois said the problem in the 20th century would be our inability to talk about race. 21st century, our inability to talk about race. Every movement that starts in this country, and we have a lot of good movements, most of them don't talk about race, color, gender. And until we as a country understand that there is still pain within the African American community, you know, you just don't go through 400 years of slavery and brutality and people taking your language and your culture, and you're promised 40 acres and a mule, and you're promised, you're given a check that has never been cashed. Until we understand that the lynchings and the dogs, that is still inside the community. We've never been purged of that. And until we purge that, or at least start talking about it, have a discussion about color and race. Race does matter. And because what tends to happen when you start talking about race, people get quiet. They get very quiet. And until we understand, we're all God's children. We're all in this together. And until we understand that, color does matter. And when we start talking and have the real conversation and help the African American community purge the deep, deep-seated feelings that are there. Anger is there. So what Trump is doing, it's there. It's been in America. They've been masquerading, camouflaging. It's part of the mosaic of this country. But when he brings it up, I said, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. So we're seeing the real America. This has been the real America. That's not all of America, but it's part of America. It's real. We've lived it. And typically, a rep will ask me, Ben said, there's no discrimination. We've arrived. You had a black president. And I said, to the contrary, I think things might have gotten worse. When I walk through a Walmart and I'm followed by the security, I go in a CVS and they stare at me. Race does matter. So with that being said, we've come a mighty long way. We had a lot of blessings. The Lord has simply been good to us. We've elected a president. We have a whole lot more work to do. Remember, the problem in the 20th century was the conversation about race and color. It's the same problem in the 21st century. Until we have the ability as human beings to sit down at the table of brotherhood and look at one another and share. Don't try to hide it. Don't try to masquerade it. It was done to us as a people, and it hurts, and it still hurts. With that being said, I'm just happy to be here as we raise the 32nd raising of the flag to the Peter Brace Brigade. God bless you. C. Jackson and the Masonic Brothers, God bless you. And to the Freedman Choir, and to Head Start, and to one of Ruth Loving's favorite folks who would come to this would be the Job Corps. Those kids here, let's give the Job Corps a big, big, because Ruth was always looking at the least of them and those who need the second and third chance, and working in communities and trying to make your life much better. So thank you folks for coming down. We appreciate you, and God bless you, God bless Springfield, and God bless the Commonwealth.
Thank you, Bud. And you know, these children are young, but they're never too young to learn about history. It's because this is where it starts. And I can see that from their eyes that they were listening to what State Representative was saying. Our young people over here, sometimes you think they aren't listening to what you say. They're listening. So with that, I am going to ask, well, let me just recognize this is the Sunflower Group from Catherine Street and Mason Square, the Head Start. Let's give them a round of applause. and we recognize the Job Corps and the Freedman School Chorus, with whom I have a history because it wasn't too long ago that I relinquished the helm as the principal of Freedman School after almost 21 years, but they're still looking good and doing a good job, and they're as bright as ever. So with that, I am going to ask if we will have Miss, you mind if I call you Sister? Luana Hood, Director of the Pan-African Historical Museum right here in Springfield. So she's going to come forward and share some information.
The raising of the African American heritage flag reminds us of the greatness of our people. Our people built this country with their blood, sweat, and tears. The African Americans are the cornerstone of the United States' wealth. It reminds us of the words of Frederick Douglass when he said, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress." It reminds us of Carter G. Woodson's, who created Negro History Week in 1926 in the month of February because you were deliberately left out of American history. It reminds us of Marcus Garvey when he said, "Confidence, confidence, you've already won when you have confidence." It reminds us of Peter Brace, Epson Brown, who fought in the Civil War for freedom. It reminds us of the great Barney Ford, called the Black Baron of Colorado, who says, "We shall not fail our future by losing our past." It reminds us of our elders, Representative Ben Swan, who fought tirelessly for the rights of all people. And it reminds us of Mrs. Ruth Loving, who created this event 32 years ago. Remember, when you see that flag, you see our history. Giving greetings to the mayor of this great city, to Representative Bud Williams, to all the dignitaries, to the good citizens and the children. I bring you greetings from the Pan-African Historical Museum, United States of America. We hope that you will come and celebrate Black History Month with us. We have a wonderful exhibit that will be premiering tonight at UMass Center. It's called The Intersection: Women of Color who fought before the civil rights movement and the feminist movement. Please come and celebrate with us and have a great Flag Day and have a wonderful Black History Month. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Hood, for that powerful Black history lesson in a few minutes. So let's give her another round of applause. So now at this time, you know, race does matter, but color doesn't matter when you found a true friend. And the director of the Frank H. Freedman School Chorus has been my friend for close to 30 years. And I can truly say that we are good friends because we respect each other, we respect our diversity, and she's also very talented. And I appreciate talent. Along with the director, Mrs. Jean Duperry, is my successor, the great principal at Freedman Elementary School. I'd just like her to stand, Sister Medina Ali. Just give her a nice round of applause. So with that, I'm going to ask Mrs. Duperry if she would come forward and lead her chorus in her own way.
Good morning. My name is Jasmine Smith, and we are the Frank H. Freedman Chorus under the direction of our music teacher, Miss Jean Duperry. We are so elated to be invited here to perform at this annual flag raising ceremony to commence Black History Month. We will perform Like a Mighty Stream.
a mighty stream, like a mighty stream, like a mighty stream, like a mighty stream, like a mighty stream. Let justice roll, let justice roll, let justice roll, like a mighty stream, like a mighty stream, like a mighty stream, like a mighty stream, like a mighty stream. Let justice roll, let justice roll, let justice roll, like a mighty stream.
Those were the mighty and great voices from students of a level 1 school. So yay for that, yay, yes, yeah. Not only are they talented, musically talented and gifted, they are academically talented and gifted. So let's keep that up, level 1. All right, at this time, I am going to ask our State Representative Bud L. Williams if he would come forward and introduce our keynote speaker for the morning. Now, he and I just had some discussion maybe a few months ago about, okay, let's see who we're going to ask to bring the message this year. And Bud, first name out of his mouth was Dr. Shabazz. I'm going to contact him and see if he's available. But he procrastinated a little bit, Dr. Shabazz. So I'm glad that you were available on, I think he got you maybe a couple weeks or months ago, but he so graciously accepted the invitation. So, and I know that we are going to hear a phenomenal message from Dr. Shabazz. So Bud, if you will come forward.
Just a little house cleaning. On behalf of the law enforcement community, the police and fire, I'm going to ask Captain Marcellus to come up and give us a 2-minute greeting. Ruth Loving always had the law enforcement involved because we always try to bridge communities. We're all working here. Coming up, Captain Marcellus, come on. I know we're not over the fire code, so.
Thank you, Bud. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. City councilors, all those dignitaries, and all of you here today. I'd like to begin by saying how pleased that I am to have been invited to speak here today. It's an honor to join all of you in recognizing Black History Month. This is a wonderful time to step back and recognize the many great gifts African Americans have brought to our city and to our nation. Just to reflect on some names for a moment: Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, our former governor, Deval Patrick, our past president, President Barack Obama. And right here in the city of Springfield, the Springfield Fire Department, we have the first Black firefighter, Lenny Corbin, the first Black officer, David McKenzie, and myself as the first Black captain in the Springfield Fire Department. Thank you. I know it seems like ancient history, but for those of us with a few years on us have seen how much change for the African Americans have been over the past few decades. It hasn't been easy. We don't have to go all the way back in Black history, back to slavery, to see the effects of change both forward and backwards. You can go to events that has happened in our lives and in the lifetime of many other people here and across the nation. That's part of why we gather here today, to celebrate Black history. We honor those who came before us, we celebrate how far we've come, and we encourage those who continue to advance the struggle today. With the recent retirements here in the Springfield Fire Department, with recent retirements over the last year and new hirees to the fire department with more hirees to come, our current department rank and file stands at 253. Of that, 37 are black firefighters, and within that total number, there are 7 lieutenants and 3 captains. Once again, it is my honor to join all of you here today for the annual raising of the Black Heritage flag. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Captain. I do also want to recognize a long-time supporter, attorney in the city of Springfield, former president of the NAACP, a tireless worker for civil rights and criminal justice in the city of Springfield. Our dear, dear friend, come out so they can see you, Attorney Mickey Harris. Come on. All right, power to the people. He was so worried about the flag raising, we hadn't got the communication out. He was in City Hall tracking it down. I was tracking you, tracking me. Thank you, Attorney Harris. Also, we have another one of our friends who's the first African-American president of WGBY. Anybody know what WGBY is? Okay. Do we know what WGBY is? That's your community radio program. A good friend of mine's public radio. I want television, public radio, public television. It's communication. He's when you see all those specials on the veterans and civil rights. I had a recent pleasure of sitting down with him and meeting with him and looking for great work out of him. I'm going to consider him my friend. Anthony Hayes, you please stand. President of WGBY. Thank you. Thank you, my brother. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing someone who really needs no introduction, Dr. Shabazz. I've been knowing Dr. Shabazz many, many years. He's done great work up in the Amherst community, Northampton area, University of Massachusetts, and also served on the school committee. Barbara, he's a former school committee person in Amherst. Yeah, well, yeah, he's really good. I'm not going to read all of his bio. I'm just going to highlight a couple of things, and I'm going to let him do his own thing. Dr. Shabazz, a professor of history and African studies in the W.E.B. Du Bois Department of African Studies since 2007. Shabazz served as the department's 7th chair from 2007 to 2012. From 2013 to 2016, he was a faculty advisor to the Chancellor for Diversity and Excellence since 2016. I'm going to fast forward and run down some of his accomplishments. He was born in Texas, and he has traveled extensively, Cuba, Ghana, all over this world, recognizing that black history is important, and he is a renowned individual in this area, an expert in black history. I've always liked to talk with him. He always said some light and gives us new information and new evidence that we do matter. Without further ado, my dear friend, Dr. Shabazz. Let's give him a big Springfield welcome. My brother.
Everybody all right? Good. I am deeply honored to be here. I want to thank Representative Bud Williams, Dr. Williams, his wife, all those working to put this together for this opportunity. I'm here with so many people that I admire and love and appreciate. I want to open this by giving special love and concern out to the family of Jay Griffin. This week we had news of a very tragic death in their family, and we wish to let him know that our hearts and condolences are with him.
Yes, sir.
I wouldn't miss this occasion for anything. If he had just called me last night, I would change my schedule and do what I can to be here. When I arrived here, at the same time that Mayor Sarno took office in 2007, I arrived to take office at University of Massachusetts, chair of the W.E.B. Du Bois Department of Afro-American Studies. And in trying to find out where am I, where have I landed, and where's the appreciation and love of history, I checked in with my colleague, Professor John Bracey. And Professor Bracey says, well, okay, if you're going to get up on Springfield and you're ready to dive in and understand something about its history, you've got to check out Ruth Loving. And I eventually did get to meet Ruth Loving. In fact, working with Director Lawana Hood at PAMUSA, we even had some taped recording, very special interview with her where she shared some things from about her life that I don't think had been recorded anywhere. So I was very pleased to be a part of that. I was honored as well. She presented me with my own copy of the flag to share within my department with the students, but even this special T-shirt with the Black American Heritage flag. And so again, I say I had to be here. I have to be a part of this. It is the kickoff of Black History Month. I am a lifetime member of the organization that started that occasion, Dr. Carter G. Woodson organization. And every year, and for almost 100 years, we've put out a national theme for reflection, for study on African American History Month. And this year's theme is African Americans in times of war. African Americans in times of war. And so again, connecting with Ruth Loving on that, I want to acknowledge how this extraordinary woman, this woman of only 4 feet, 11 inches tall, when this country went to war, the so-called good war, the Second World War in Europe against Nazism, against the official ideology of white supremacy over the world, Ms. Loving stepped forward to join the Massachusetts Women's Defense Corps, which was a group of volunteer women dedicated to providing war-related and emergency services to the citizens of the Commonwealth during World War II. She just stepped forward. We have pictures of her in uniform. We have pictures of her doing this work, African Americans in times of war. And what that highlights historically is the way in which we've been there in every war, in every fight. We've been there to the aid of the people, to the aid of the country, to the defense of liberty. And it is with that point I want to make a special note about the importance of African American history, just right here in Springfield. You know, Wayne Faniff, executive editor of the Springfield Republican, and Joe Cavallo, and I think they had another co-author, well, they've been putting out these series of books on the various historical communities that make up Springfield, the various ethnic or historical communities that make up Springfield. And every one of them, there's a kind of a theme, and I really appreciate the theme that they captured for African Americans, because I think it is one of the greatest contributions we give this city, and indeed we give the world. They entitled, and the theme of that book for Springfield and its African American history is The Struggle for what? Freedom. The struggle for freedom. And understand, freedom is not something somebody gives to you. Somebody writes a proclamation, or they write a note, or they write a check, and they say, here, you're free. Freedom is something that you are what? Born with. You're entitled to as a basic human right. Nobody gives that to you. You're born with it. And the thing is to struggle for it, to keep it safe, and to keep it protected in what it means. And so with that, that is such an important contribution. In the foyer, as you enter the City Hall, there are pictures there. All of those individuals, critical individuals to the struggle for freedom in world history. And they all come through. Their roads all cross right here in Springfield. Frederick Douglass, John Brown, right across the street, right here in this community, they're here. Sojourner Truth. All these historical figures in the struggle for freedom, right here. So important. We have the Bible, one of the Bibles of John Brown, right here in this city, right? So the struggle for freedom. And I want to say that takes away from no other community. They have books in that series on the Polish community here. They have books in that series on the Italian, and there are great themes of what the Italian community has contributed. Their pride, their resilience, their strength. And you have here today a son of immigrants from Italy, Clara and Alphonse, who come here looking for a better day, looking for economic opportunity, a chance. They didn't come here with merit. They didn't merit anything to come to this country, but that they had the will to work hard and to try to better themselves. That's what they brought. And the country welcomed them. Give us your tired, give us your hungry. And so Dominic Sano's parents took that opportunity. And here their son is the mayor of this city. How glorious a story. Would that we keep that door open today. Yeah. Huh? And not based on that you come from Norway. Not based on that you have a very light-skinned pigmentation. Not based on some association with one continent on the planet, but keep the door open for everybody. From El Salvador, from Haiti, from Jamaica, from everywhere. Keep the door open and give people that opportunity to do what they've always done in this country, and that is to make things better for themselves and for others and to be great in this country. That's the greatness of this country. Not shutting the door, not privileging certain groups whom you think merit. And we see that in this mayor right here. The people's mayor, opening this space to the people to celebrate the kickoff of Black History Month. Let me move on quickly and make a couple other observations. First of all, this flag. So let's go into it. What did Melvin Charles and Gleason Jackson have in mind? The elements of the flag include the color black to represent pride and pigmentation and race, red to remind us of the rich blood men and women have shed for freedom, equality, justice, and human dignity throughout the world. I'm giving you their words. And gold to represent intellect, prosperity, and peace. These colors are woven into a composition that juxtapose the red and black in a set of 3 stripes, one black stripe centered between 2 red stripes. Superimposed on the black stripe is a golden wreath of fig leaves. The cultivated fig is a native of Africa and ranks as one of the most ancient of life-sustaining fruits. Centered within the gold wreath is a blunted Moorish boarding sword, symbol of leadership, carried by the great Moorish leaders of the 8th century, from Mali to Fez, to Morocco, to Timbuktu. It's a symbol of leadership. The sword represents the strength and authority exhibited by a black culture that made contributions to the world in mathematics, art, medicine, and physical science, heralding the contributions that African Americans would make in these and other fields. Those are the symbols encoded here. But let me take you a little bit deeper into the question of these fig leaves. Somebody's already know. Now, I said that that's a very old tree, and indeed it is. But if we look at the Bible, the fig tree is the third tree mentioned in the Bible. What's the first tree? The tree of life. What's the second tree? Give you a hint. It was in the garden. That was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's an apple tree. And the third tree mentioned in the Bible is the fig tree. Now, there's even a famous story. Jesus wasn't rich. A lot of times we might think Jesus was rich like Trump or Oprah Winfrey or somebody. Jesus wasn't rich. Half the time Jesus was hungry. I'm gonna put it like that, or hangry. And one time when he's coming out of Bethany, Jesus was hangry. I mean, he was hungry and he was angry. And boy, he saw this tree off at a distance as he's walking on. He said, oh, that looks like a fig tree. And boy, his hunger just grew. And he's thinking about eating some figs, man, and getting some nourishment. And he gets closer and closer, and he gets there. It wasn't in season. There wasn't a edible fig on the tree. And what did Jesus do? He cursed. He cursed the tree. He went on. He was still hangry. He got into the town. He saw the money changers had taken over the temple. What did he do? Got to go. This is not what this is about. Okay? And then as they're coming back, his disciples said, hey, Jesus, look, the tree. The tree had shriveled up. It was dead as a doornail. And Jesus used that as an opportunity to tell them something about the power of what? Of faith. Faith can move mountains. Faith can take you from nothing to the highest place, to an exalted place. You can be down, out of luck today, poor, downtrodden, but with faith, and praying and focusing yourself, you can turn all that around. In the African American tradition, we say it's the power to make a way out of no way. That's the power of faith. In the Kiswahili word of the tradition of Kwanzaa, we say imani. Imani. And so when you see that in this flag, it's a symbol, it's taking you into that symbolically about the African American heritage. That ability to make a way out of no way, to not lose faith, to not lose hope, and to keep pushing, to keep struggling. And as long as you're pushing, as long as you're struggling, you have a chance to succeed. You have a chance to prosper. You have a chance to get all that you dream of. So be a dreamer. And then have faith and work hard and make your dreams come true. You can do it. You are our future here in Springfield. You are our future. And if you focus on that, if you remember that all throughout Black History Month, read the history, read the stories, come to the Pan-African Historical Museum. We've got about 4 different exhibit rooms in there. You can look at artwork. You can look at the history from medieval Africa, where our roots are from when we start coming over in. And one final point I'll make. Behind the flag there's a painting. Do we know who that's a painting of? The Puritan. William Pynchon was a guy born in England. Another immigrant, I'm telling you another immigrant story here. Comes here looking for a better way. First he gets here, he lands, and he founds what today is a section of Boston. It originally was its own town called Roxbury. Anybody know Roxbury in here? Talk to me. Roxbury. Why Roxbury? Because the soil was so rocky. Wasn't too good. So he kept it moving. He didn't stay at Roxbury very long. He started something else. He said, well, we got to find someplace a little bit better than this. And they looked at the river, and they start checking out the Connecticut River, and he said, maybe we can stretch out and find a little something better than this. And he found his way in this area, and it was all jumbled up. Was it part of Connecticut, the Connecticut colony? Was it part of the Bay, Massachusetts colony? It wasn't very clear. It became clear later on. Some politicians like Bud and Ben got in the room and made a deal and said, okay, we're going to cut it here. But it was all one. But he establishes this. He's a fur trader. He's a businessman. He's very business-minded. But I want to tell you another side of him. So he's part of this Puritan thing, this kind of religious theology called Calvinism. And Calvinism, pretty tough kind of Christian doctrine. They believed in Calvinism that the ability to atone for sin, the ability to move yourself from a bad place in life, a sinful place, to being good and virtuous and hope to be on the side with God. That the way to that was through suffering, was through punishment. He wrote a book that challenged that idea, and he said, no, the real path, what God is really looking for, is obedience. And if you're obedient to the Word of God, if you're obedient to what God wants you to do, that allows you to atone, and that will allow you to achieve a state of grace, to receive grace from God to move forward. You know what happened to that book? It is the first book in the quote-unquote New World, in the Americas, in the Western Hemisphere, to be banned. Oh yes. The authorities, they were with the old doctrine. They didn't like the new ideas he was promoting. And they banned it right there on the Boston Commons, took his little book, burned it, put it in a pile and set it afire. Said nobody should read this. We ban this. If you catch you reading it, we're going to put you in the stocks, we're going to whip you, we're going to cane you. They're all kind of terrible things. First book to be banned. He hung out here a while. He did many things. He finally said, this little colonist life, I'm kind of sick of. He goes back to England. He dies in England. He didn't die here. You can't find his grave, his burial plot anywhere here in Massachusetts. You have to go to Raysbury in England. That's where St. Andrews, big famous, where all the famous people, some of the famous people in England. Rich man. But he goes home. He says, forget this colony thing. But his son, John, kind of takes up the wealth, takes up everything. And his son, John, did something terribly wrong. And I don't know if there's ever been an official proclamation from the city of Springfield, but maybe they can work on it. But John Pynchon did something terribly, terribly wrong. He started the practice here in this area of human enslavement. Yes, he did. Of human enslavement. And they took Africans from the Caribbean. They went down and they took some of the prisoners of war from the Pequot they had been fighting. And they said, well, we can't keep them around here. They're too troublesome around here. And we don't want to just kill them outright. We've killed enough already. Let's see if we can sell them down in Barbados. And that's what they did. They went and traded, and they took back out of the whole trade some Africans, enslaved Africans, and brought them here. Now, the whole nature of slavery then, I don't want to confuse it. It develops over time. It wasn't the same kind of slavery that if you read the narrative of Frederick Douglass, or you read Sojourner Truth's life, it's not quite the same. This is very early in the practice. This is really kind of the first practices here and in Jamestown, Virginia, of enslavement. And so a lot of it functioned more like a practice that was common in Europe called indentured servitude, or what we call contract slavery. And that's where you sign yourself over to me from an average of 7 to 10 years or so. And if you work hard at faith and you do everything you're told to do, then at the end of that 7 years or 10 years, you'd get cut loose. So it was more like that, and a little bit fuzzy. And indeed, these first Africans, a couple of them even became landowners. They ended up having a space in the church, right, Miss Hood? They had a space, pews in the church because they had become landowners. So you could work your way up. You had a chance to make a way for yourself in that early time. Over time, though, they tightened up by the 1670s, 1680s, and now slavery became a lifetime thing. If you were a slave, you're a slave for life, and the condition of slavery followed the condition of the mother. So if you're an African woman, that child, even if the father is free, is a free person, that child is not free. That child follows the condition of the mother. So whoever owns the mother owns that child. And that was the condition. But that will begin to be challenged immediately and on into the 1700s. We have our famous stories of the lawsuits and Mumbet and the rest that start to challenge this. And you have different things in the constitutions written about it, state constitutions. And over time, that does change from the fight. And indeed, through that fight, Springfield then later becomes a home, a center point in the Underground Railroad. It becomes a major site for the abolitionist movement, which is not like everybody goes around wearing a little badge. I'm an abolitionist. This was like more of an underground thing, because you had people here that had money down south, and they didn't like it if you were anti-slavery. You had people here who would go to Wilbraham Munson, whose parents were slaveholders, and they didn't want you making them feel uncomfortable about slavery. So when I say abolitionism had a powerful base here, I don't mean it to say like everybody was going around flag raising and we're for abolitionism. It was covert. It was an underground movement, but people were strong. And so I want to conclude with this. Carrying on from work of former State Representative Ben Swan, Representative Bud Williams has a House bill in the Massachusetts State Legislature. And that bill calls for the funds for land and the construction of a building to create a center, a museum and a research center on the history of this struggle for freedom of African Americans, from the fight against slavery, anti-slavery and abolitionism, to the civil rights struggle on down through time. I urge you to go online to Mass.gov, look at the bill, look at its status, give him support for that. Because a city of this size and of this prominence, there's no reason you shouldn't have a very prominent complex that captures this history and engages in ongoing research. Because let me tell you, there's very little in the history books. The very first article you'll find anybody that is really written on blacks in Springfield was an undergraduate student in my department. In fact, she was the second or third graduate, known by the name Imani Kazana. She wrote that as a senior thesis. I'm going to bring her down. I've been in touch with her. She's went on to be an activist everywhere she lived. North Carolina, whatnot, and she got in touch recently. I'm going to have to bring her back. But she wrote that senior thesis. And then since then, there was, in the bicentennials, 1976, a little pamphlet was put out. We now have Carvalho and Wayne's book. It's a coffee table book. A lot of good information, a lot of contributions. Henry Thomas, a lot of others. Henry Twiggs, people gave certain stories to it, a lot of pictures. It's good, but it's only a start. We need this research center. We need this museum that begins to develop this knowledge and hand it on, and then will be, like this flag, a living testament to the struggle for freedom. Thank you.
Let's give it to him. Let's give it to him. Thank you. A couple key points on that bill that I actually refiled That was a bill that Representative Swan has filed for year in and year out, and I want to thank Ben. I called him and told him I was going to refile it, and he's very committed to it. I'm very committed to it. I got Dr. Shabazz is very committed to it. I got Sister Hood is committed to it. I've had conversation with Barbara Gresham about putting African American history within the school system. It's time that we make something happen in Springfield so we can capture our history. I just want to thank you again on all your themes.
Thank you, sir.
And if you ever get a chance, go to Washington, D.C. and go to the National Black Museum. It captures all of our history, from the Masonic to the war, to education, to music. We went a weekend. You can't do it in a weekend. I have to go back. But if you see it captured, it's an amazing, you come out after you go through the rites of passage and work your way out of all that scene and stuff and get to the real positive stuff. You come out feeling really good about yourself. We've accomplished a lot, but we need a situation in Springfield that we can talk about our history. I want to thank you again, my brother.
Thank you, sir.
Outstanding as usual. We're just about wrapped up. I have Will Naylor's going to do a quick version of what? Will Naylor. Before Vanessa Ford comes in, Will Naylor still here? Reverend Naylor? Okay, he had to leave. He was going to do I Was Born by the River, but he's not here. So you can bring on.
Okay, with that, we're going to ask Springfield's very talented, very gifted, generous woman, beautiful voice. She's going to come forward and lead us in the National Black Anthem. Ms. Ford.
Before she comes, last Tuesday, Governor Baker gave his State of the State, which he addresses the whole country in terms of what his direction is. And we were very fortunate. The governor asked if we could make something happen to get him a choir from Springfield. Vanessa Ford and Dr. Chief Bradley from St. John's, they put together the Springfield Choral. We had about, I don't know how many different churches.
Yeah.
5 churches. We had over 30 people. They processed into the State House. They started, let me tell you something. We're gonna do a story on the point of view for next month. They processed into that State House, and when they finished, they had Governor Baker shouting, they had every rep in there jumping up, they had every senator, and they were shouting, hallelujah, hallelujah. And then on top of that, the governor called, calls Mayor Sarno up and says, hey, Mayor, I don't know what got into that choir, but they turned the State House out. Am I right, Mayor? He called him and said, hey, we got to do that again. But it just goes to show you, when you praise a good man up there, when blessings go, praises go up, blessings come down. But I just want you to do an outstanding job. I want to thank you again. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, State Rep. We thank God for you, State Representative Williams, and to Dr. Williams also for being the leader of this beautiful ceremony this morning. So let's give her a round of applause. To everyone here, especially the children, I think that your time was well spent today. What do you think? Have you been inspired? Because you've inspired us, those of you who sang and lifted your voices in such a beautiful way. We are thankful to you for doing that. And so we want you now to help us as we all stand and sing together. Now, it's important to know that the words for this song, Lift Your Voice and Sing, are in the program. So if you have a program, you can sing along. And those of you who are in school may even know it from singing it before. They do know it, right, Dr. Williams? They know it. So I need your help to stand with me and sing this song. This song was written a long time ago and presented in 1900 by children much your age. And so we want to be able to lift our voice. It was first written as a poem, right? You know that about this song? And so it's very important that we sing together because it's a great story to know that there was hope back then. for all the struggles that were going on and everything that was happening to our people, that someone had it in their heart to write about the hope for the future. They told a story that was the truth of what was going on in their present time. So we sing this song today, and we stand because we're proud of our ancestors, right? And we're thankful. So when you stand with pride. Don't just stand because we asked you to. Stand because you're proud, and that because you have hope for our future. Are you ready to lift your voice and sing? And all the adults are going to help us lift our voice together? Yeah. All right. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road, stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true